Hello y'all, this is Red Flood, a mod for Hearts of Iron 4 set in a world where no one was truly able to win World War I. We're going to play as British Mashriq, also referred to as the Mashriq Kingdom. This country in the Middle East is facing issues in Palestine as the king's British overlords are supporters of Zionism. This isn't the only crisis the country is facing, however, as internal divisions are showing in Lebanon and Syria, as French exiles and religious minorities are vying for representation and power. With all this said, one must ask, how much longer can this kingdom last? We have started the game, and one very important thing to point out that you could have probably guessed is that currently we are playing a country that is a puppet of the United Kingdom. We're going to start building as many civilian factories as possible in Palestine. The reason for why we are doing this will become clear later. In the focus tree, we're going to do industrial effort, then construction effort, and construction effort 2. After that, we will go to the right and do armament effort and armament effort 2. Once all that is done, we'll probably try to complete the other focuses in this part of the tree. Going over to the decision tab, we can see a category called the Palestine problem. Basically, Zionist organizations are sponsoring the arrival of Jews into a particular region. Thanks to this, we have access to 3 decisions that will give us manpower, but the catch is that every time we use one of these decisions, the base stability of British Mashriq will get lower. Just to the east of us, in Iran, a civil war has begun between the Persian People's Socialist Republic and the Shahdom of Persia. To the south, in Africa, the popular Socialist Ugandan Commune has risen up against the British. Unfortunately for them, they will have to fight all the UK and its faction. We're keeping a close eye on the Persian Civil War, and it seems, as of now, the Shahdom will most likely beat the People's Socialist Republic. The United Kingdom has successfully suppressed the Ugandan Commune. I gotta say, I'm not surprised at all this was the outcome, given the circumstances. A while back, the British established the Palestine Royal Commission. They had this grand idea to lower the tensions between the Arabs, Jewish settlers, and the British authorities by making a new partition. Some people were not happy when they learned that the Jews would receive more territory, whose settlements up until now had been more or less spread out thinly across the coastal plains. A great amount of Palestinian backlash is expected in response to this development. Meanwhile, in the Jewish camp, there is a good bit of arguing about the matter among the different groups, and some individuals have begun calling their rivals, quote, false Zionists. Either way, paramilitary groups affiliated with the Jews have begun defending their people's settlements, and it appears more and more likely that a conflict is just around the corner. Zionists threaten secession. Low-level fighting that started in Galilee has spilled over into the wider coastal plain, resulting in the deaths of a number of Jewish civilians. With this in mind, Zionist militants and political groups have sent an ultimatum to the Mashriq king that says, leave the Jewish partition by the next Sabbath or Zion will secede from the kingdom. We got 3 choices here. We're going to go with the one on the bottom left, and because of that, from this point onward, we will play as Israel for the rest of the playthrough. We get some news about the Zionist revolt, and the Kingdom of Syria has gone ahead and declared war on us, as we are now playing as the United Zionist Front. Our formal country name is the Zionist Revolt, and as of the moment, the ruling party of the nation is of the accelerationist variety. Moving on, if we take a quick look at our army and its commanders, we can see that we have 6 divisions and that we have a wide array of generals and a single field marshal. We got a whole new focus tree with tons of unique stuff in it. Let's start off by doing fight for the Zionist cause, coordinate the militias, the Haganah joins, fight for the Yishuv, and the Israeli conscription laws. There isn't much of an enemy presence down near our territory, so with that said, we're going to try and make a dash for the enemy capital of Damascus. For whatever reason unknown to us, maybe because we're both accelerationist, Yugoslavia, led by Nikola Tesla, has started sending Lend-Lease to Israel. Something to point out is that the Israeli infantry have their own special infantry models. Appearance-wise, their uniforms are pretty green and come with big Star of David symbols on the shoulders. There's the enemy, and they have brought against us their full strength. Thanks to that, I don't see us getting to their capital anytime soon. As fast as the war begun, it can now end. A ceasefire has been agreed to, and while this is basically a victory for us, it is a huge loss to the Mashriq Kingdom, who, due to some internal unrest, may lose Lebanon. In the aftermath of the conflict, some big changes have occurred in the region. What once was entirely one country has fragmented into smaller ones, such as Jordan, the French Mandate of Lebanon, and the Kingdom of Syria. Our nation has become officially known as Israel, and in the focus tree, as we're no longer at war, we are going to complete the focuses, the revisionist Zionist split, and democracy established. A schism in the movement. There is no more common enemy for the Jewish state to face, and because of that, a large amount of infighting has started. Labor and revisionist Zionists make an attempt to form a new government, and in response, radicals in the Lehi and the Irgun have loudly voiced their opposition to this. All efforts of mediation have failed, and as a last-ditch attempt to avoid persecution, a joint Lehi-Irgun force is going to try and overthrow the government, but they have found Haganah militias waiting for them. The leader of the coup makes a speech and attempts to get the militias to side with him. We must choose how the militia respond to this. Let's say they round everyone up and place all present under house arrest. While we are facing our own problems in another part of the world, the United Provinces are battling against the Federal Republic of India. With the chaos of post-independence over, the first ever general election of Israel can finally take place in order to decide who will be the Prime Minister. We got three different political camps, so to speak. Here's our choices, and these choices are the Mapai, the Herut, and the Labor Zionist, the latter of which is represented by the two Socialist Zionist parties, Labor Unity and Polei Zion. With all that said, we're going to have that last group I listed win the election. The Labor Zionist parties had to form a coalition to win the election, and since that has been accomplished, they must now get a leader, and the only person they could both agree on is Albert Einstein. Although he is currently living in Germany, he has voiced his support for the fledgling state. He accepted the proposal. However, there is one big condition for him, and that is that the Socialist Zionist parties merge. They would do so as they do not wish to fail Einstein, despite objections from some people in both parties. We got a new flag because of our previous choices, and ideology-wise, the popular socialists have become the ruling party of Israel. We also now have access to another part of the focus tree, which begins with Einstein arrives from Germany. Albert Einstein is here, and he has his own special leader trait named Scholarly Benefactor. It gives us a buff to research speed and daily compliance gain. Einstein historically is best known for his work in theoretical physics as the man who developed the theory of relativity, as well as someone who made contributions to the development of quantum mechanics. Politically, he was a founding member of the German Democratic Party and later on was in favor of socialism, especially as he got older. He was a firm believer in both labor Zionism as well as Jewish-Arab cooperation. He also supported world federalism and world law. Back in the focus tree, let's do more of Einstein's political path by completing the focuses: a merge with the Labor Party, the Hebrew University, independent councils, socialist meritocracy, promote Arab integration, influence our neighbors, and supported by Germany. Why would Israel want help from Germany? Well, in this world's timeline, Germany is quite socialist, so ideologically, Einstein's Israel does share some similarities with the German Socialist Republic. One thing I'd like to point out, though, is that in this particular instance, the Germans are led by an individual who is possibly a familiar-looking propaganda minister from our own history. Might as well start getting more aggressive. We're going to justify a war goal on the neighboring country of Jordan, who in terms of ideology is reactionary. Just in case it wasn't completely obvious, I will say that we are no longer part of the UK's faction, aka the Commonwealth of Nations. In Germany, some dock workers associated with an anarchist group go on strike. The government responds to this with military aggression. To get ready for any potential fights, we're going to set the conscription law to extensive conscription and the economy law to war economy. We're invading Jordan, and there is this one province in the East Bank you'd think we could walk into, but apparently we can't due to the Dead Sea being in front of it. Up north, some distance away from us, the Kavkaz Society is battling the mountainous republic of the Northern Caucasus and the Terek People's Republic. The clash with Jordan is going well for us. We took their capital, and soon we will cut their defensive lines in half. With that over, Israel now has a puppet. We want to continue expanding in some way, and because of that, we are going to justify a war goal on the French Mandate of Lebanon. In the focus tree, we're going to complete the focuses: pressure to Arab states, a Middle Eastern spear, contain Syrian aggression, and rehabilitate the army cadets. Our infantry divisions have a combat width of 12, so what we're going to do to make them more powerful is to bring that number up to 20. Over in South America, Brazil declares war on Argentina. Knowing the path the Brazilian Popular Republic is going down, they'll most likely try to take on the whole continent in an effort to unite it all into one country. The time has arrived for us to start a conflict with Lebanon. There is only one way for us to get into the enemy country by land, so as a way to try to get around that, we have made a fallback line. Hopefully our opponent's army will see the empty territory be lured in and then destroyed once we attack. The plan appears to have worked, and soon we will be in the city of Beirut. There it is. Brazil is at war with 5 South American countries at once, as well as Italy for whatever reason. I'm not really sure how the Italians got involved, but okay. We may need to rethink our strategy, but in other news, Israel now has its own faction called the Euphrates Union. Another fallback line is going to be made because when we reached the enemy capital the first time, the resistance proved stronger than expected. The goal of this scheme is to make an effort to totally annihilate any organized enemy opposition that comes our way. Turkey, who is just slightly above us in terms of geography, has declared war on their neighbor, Armenia. Lebanon is defeated, but there is more combat to be had. Let's have Israel invade Saudi Arabia. We are going to have to make our way through the Arabian desert to reach our main objective, the enemy capital of Riyadh. The Turks have beat the Armenians, and it appears that they had a little help, if the borders are anything to go by, from the Caucasian General Governorate. We're going to do more of Einstein's political path by doing the focuses. Our common struggle: ask for military aid, industrialize the Negev, and expand the kibbutz. More victory points are needed to win the war, so on that note, Israeli forces are going to be sent out to capture Qatif, Medina, and Mecca. In Europe, the Austrian Reich declares war on Germany. The Austrians are already fighting Poland and friends, so I'm not sure if starting another conflict was a good idea for them. The Caucasian General Governorate declares war on the Kavkaz Society. What makes this sort of awkward is that these two countries don't share a border with each other. In order to contain Syrian aggression, we have launched an incursion into their territory. That makes sense, doesn't it? Germany has accepted our request for aid. I guess they will give us equipment, but to be honest, I'm not entirely sure. In Eastern Europe, the Belarusian Revolutionary Republic declares war on the Russian Empire. However, it seems that isn't the only conflict Belarus is involved in, as they are already fighting 3 other countries. We have sort of finished Einstein's part of the focus tree, and with that said, we're going to do some military-oriented focuses now, such as the United Army, the IDF, and independent production. Once we're finished with Syria, we are going to march on the nations of Al Jazeera and Kurdistan. The war we are in is almost over. Unfortunately for us, our side took more casualties than the other one. It doesn't matter too much though, as our country will be the one to triumph here. Just as that fight ends, Turkey has started justifying on our puppet Syria. Hopefully the Turks won't try to actually attack us, since they're going to be busy doing stuff to the east. More focuses: let's start and complete foundation of the Knesset, the law of return, no one left behind, return from America, our brothers to the south, and nationalize businesses. Since Israel has been established, more and more Jewish people have started returning to the ancient land of Zion. Iran seeks an agreement. They want us to partition the small polities of the Levant with them. We'll say no to their idea. Our country shall go its own way. Jews from America have started arriving to Israel en masse. They cite persecution and a bad economy as their main reasons for leaving the USA. We have brought Al Jazeera and Kurdistan into the Euphrates Union. Now we are going to do something a little bit unpredictable, and that unpredictable thing will be us invading Turkey. The Italian Combine declared war on Turkey. That wasn't part of the plan, but will make any military operations we had in mind just a little bit easier to do. I'm somewhat surprised the Italians did what they did, because they and their French allies are currently fighting the German Socialist Republic and the Third International. Thanks to a certain focus, Beta Israel and Ethiopia now exist as its own country. The Combine wasn't satisfied enough with Turkey alone, and thus they have gone to war with Iran. we're throwing all of Israel's army at the Turkish defenses. We have 52 divisions in total, and since the Turks are fighting on two fronts at the same time, it shouldn't be too hard to overwhelm them. That's that. We have made Turkey into a puppet, and on top of that, we brought Armenia and Central Caspia back to life. It would be fair to say that Albert Einstein and Israel and its faction, the Euphrates Union, dominates a good portion of the Middle East. That's quite the change for a country that just a few short years ago fought for its very own independence. The video is going to stop here. If you enjoyed the mod, check it out in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment. Have an awesome day. I'll see y'all later. Bye.